Hello. My three main points will be about high inflation slash high interest rates, high oil prices, and globalization, which will all impact a firm. A company that relies heavily on oil would find it difficult to compete with other companies if it had to switch to a different source of energy. That different source of energy would be more likely to bear more costs, such as causing the company to make adjustments like finding suitable machinery to use that energy source as discussed in bargaining powers of suppliers. Orloff also makes a point that the price of oil being 147 BBL during the year of financial collapse. This is interesting because at 600 BBL, a country would have to use their whole GDP to pay for energy. Entry points also come into play as any company hoping to thrive would have to take into consideration their stakeholders. For example, car manufacturers are still producing gasoline cars, which are still in high demand. With that said, an emerging company with this knowledge in mind should determine if they should follow the crowd or move in directions towards using renewable energy source. In order to keep stakeholders happy and keep the companies profitable, a company would have to meet the demand even if that demand relies on an unrenewable disappearing source of energy. GDP would have to collapse in order for the GDP to take on new sources of energy. Chris Mortensen points out that cheap oil will no longer be cheap and that the ship has passed for the price of oil to drop anymore. The process of extracting oil is getting more expensive due to it getting more difficult to extract the oil. The management book claims that the natural and business world are attached to one another and are not separable. A firm should use that knowledge and start moving towards using machinery and equipment that uses a different source of energy, which is renewable. A manager should also consider transportation costs, develop strategies to move distribution and slash production facilities closer, or rely on a different resource to transport goods. As oil and other rare resources are being used up in an expanding economy, a firm needs to make an acknowledgement of that, or else the firm will end when the resource to keep it alive ends. As a firm in modern day society, a firm needs to take a close look at what's really going on in their internal or external environment. Mortensen states that the Federal Reserve is able to create money out of thin air and is able to loan it. The loan is made as a bond, and that is sold to entities like countries or individuals like you and me. The problem is that as government keeps making out loans, national debt increases exponentially. The only way to take care of this issue is for the economy to increase exponentially. Unfortunately, the world is finite, and there is a limit to how big an economy can grow. A company has to understand the dynamics of this relationships of money slash debt and understand how they can impact the firm's life. National debt can lead to currency fluctuations, and currency ties into economic factors in the external environment of the business. A business would have to expand and shrink in certain continental regions simply because the currency was in trouble or thriving in that given year. A firm would have to combat inflation by raising prices on their product or even reduce production if quantity demanded goes down due to the lowering of purchasing power. Higher inflation means firms would have need to offer higher interest rates than they normally would to borrow the same amount of money. With borrowing costs being higher, a firm will have to adjust and take on less investment opportunities. Interest rates are tied into bonds, which the government can choose to create at will. So the government can choose periods of growth or decline based on the numbers of bonds issued. A modern day firm would have to look at growth opportunities to know when to borrow, when it's cheaper to borrow, and when not to borrow when borrowing costs go up. If inflation and interest gets to a point where a recession could occur, a firm would have to consider reducing their workforce through cutting hours or terminating their employees altogether. The reverse can be true, and a manager should act swiftly to take advantage of growing their company during periods of growth. All these are examples leading to globalization process that is changing the way business is conducted. Globalization is said to provide more opportunities for individuals and entities around the world from advances in telecommunications. Globalization has allowed for increases in customer base, lowering cost opportunities, and the ability to learn more effective skills for any given company. A company should make sure that their value, norms, and artifacts do not go against the company do not go against the culture where the company engages businesses in. In conclusion, if all three of these main points that I had mentioned happen at the same time, as a result, companies emerging around this time should consider preparing for upcoming recessions. Increased oil prices and increased government borrowing will cause a company to not prosper as well as it could. Globalization can help if the company chooses to operate overseas or become a multinational company. A company will have to either move overseas entirely to engage in eco-friendly business to avoid high inflation slash high oil prices crisis in America and take advantage of the globalization, or suffer to the government's ignorance to science and facts, which can cause a company to dissolve entirely or not operate to its fullest potential. This is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.